Okay, you started
Yes,
with
sir.
it?
I just we started, yeah, and it looks like it's working.
Okay. Okay. Welcome back to Between the Lines podcast, everyone. Unfortunately, it's another week, another no Ziad no show. At this point, I'm beginning to think Ziad's going to hand in a transfer request. And he's not a one club man like me and Wasim. Wasim, what are your thoughts on this? He's starting to
Listen,
bail on the team.
allegedly Ziad was sick, but he worked today. But he chose his work over his baby. It makes me think, wallah.
It makes you think people are more satisfied to be corporate slaves these days than work on a side hustle and try to become their own man. A generation of weaklings, that's all
Well,
I
we're,
can
we're
say.
never making it out of the hood with this
But
mentality.
you're actually not gonna make it out of the hood like this. Yeah, what are you doing, dog? Like Wasim said, come take care of your baby. But with that being said, and with us throwing Ziad under the bus, we can get started on reviewing the Champions League games on Tuesday and Wednesday. Some diabolical results, some surprise results, and then we'll get into reviewing or previewing the Premier League, which happened on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Luckily, we were did
So,
not.
Wasim, let's.
Luckily, we did not record our answers. We would have to listen to like the
Oh
last two
my God.
episodes. We doubled down on some takes, but my God.
Yeah, we went in with our chests. By the way, we were so confident of our takes. Listen, this is why we are just recording on YouTube and we are not working, in some big sort of analysis team like some. I was gonna say Sky Sports, but come on, realistically, Sky
The-
Sports are trash. We're probably better than
which is
Sky
why I'm a
Sports.
retired FanDuel member, wallah. With these kind of predictions, could never make it.
Exactly. Yeah. FanDuel, we thought was gonna get us rich, but at this point, just making us poor. We're giving money to FanDuel like it's a charity.
Legit.
But anyways, so let's start with I think the most high-profile game or the game that came with the most drama was Atalanta and Club Brugge. Firstly, I remember saying, Atlanta were gonna get a good result home and away, which didn't happen on both legs. They got slapped both home and away. Lookman just made a comeback from a very lengthy injury layoff this game, and he came on with instant impact right after he came on at halftime. Scored a goal within I think the first minute after halftime, and then unfortunately missed the penalty 20 minutes in. Now, I think we all remember Lookman's penalty for Fulham in the relegation fight against West Ham away. If you don't remember it, that's a penalty you should definitely see. Fulham were involved in a relegation fight, and this man in the 90th minute could have either drew the game or won the game for Fulham, but he decided to chip the penalty, do a little Panenka, which the keeper saved, and ultimately Fulham did get relegated that year. It might have been the COVID year. So Lookman, again, it seems like pressure moments really get to him and to his head, and he can't really perform when it comes to penalties. He missed the penalty, but I'm very against what Gasperini said after the game. He kind of threw Lookman under the bus as if he's
Thing
not his
is,
own
it was
player.
such a wild take
Say,
because honestly, that penalty I think was the last penalty Lookman missed because from what I saw, Lookman hasn't missed a penalty in the last 5 years.
y- I mean, I'm not gonna doubt that, but at the same time, Wasim, since he's been at Atlanta, or at least this season, he has not been taking penalties. That's what I noticed. It's been Di Catalery, the other striker that plays with him. So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe Lookman isn't taking as many penalties, and maybe there's a reason to that. Maybe like they notice in training that it's not his strong suit. So even though he is the star player, and usually star players are the ones that step up, if they're not stepping up, then you know that there's something wrong there. Like he's definitely not suited for penalties.
Yeah,
But still, it doesn't give an excuse to Gasperini to throw him under the bus and say he's the worst penalty taker. I don't know why he's taking it. And it's funny because Lookman came out after the game, posted an Instagram story saying, it's kind of disappointing here, your manager say that, especially that the designated penalty taker was on the pitch at that time and asked Lookman to take it in a crunch moment. And Lookman, being a big player, didn't shy away, right? He said, okay, let me take the penalty, let me step up for my team because that's what big players do. And he knows it comes with the risk of missing. But I think it's beyond him missing a penalty. I just think Italian players face a lot of racism in Italy, and it continued right here. Sorry, players of color. Like, yeah, they face racism in Italy, and it just continued. Like, we've seen it with Balotelli in the past and a couple other players, and now it's happening with Lookman. And at this point, they were already going to lose Lookman last summer, which I'm surprised it didn't happen. So I'm sure at this point, now Lookman and his representatives are already, like, and Atlanta have accepted the fact that Lookman will leave this summer. So this just kind of accelerated it. What are
I
your thoughts,
think
Wasim?
I think from what I heard was Lookman was gonna leave regardless in the summer or most likely. So I guess Gasparini like in
Yeah,
his mind was like screw it. I'm just gonna throw him completely under the bus and just make him the scapegoat, which was well to me with all the success
nothing
for
to
the
lose.
past like year and a half for Lookman before his injury. He was just cooking. Um, and I think
Hmm.
listen, from this game and both Juventus and AC Milan, we might have to like look at Italian teams because there has been some diabolical performance by all Italian teams outside of Inter, who's like were already in the next round. So there might have to be some question marks on the Italian league and like the teams performing in Europe because I know when English teams they always love to get scapegoated by other fans because it's the biggest league. When teams don't make it,
Yeah.
they start making inquisitions. But here we are with three Italian teams just knocked out in the first round. Overall, like I paid attention a little bit to the game. I honestly kind of like uh, closed the game after the first half personally and just watched the Bayern Celtic game at that point because like I was surprised that first
Hmm.
half was diabolical. Club Brugge just played around them.
Which is shocking. Like I know they played decent football, Club Brugge, but I watched them against Man City and they absolutely parked the bus. And so I assumed, in the away leg they'd kind of sit back, especially that they had a lead. But I guess they saw something in Atlanta that suited their game, and they're like, you know what, we'll go at them and we'll do it. And I respect that, man. Um, by the way, uh, they have Simon Mignolet in
Yeah,
net.
and like
That man's he's been quietly cooking for years now, a couple of
And
years
the
now.
funniest thing about like Gasparini like throwing Lookman under the bus was at the end of the day you conceded 3 goals to Club Brugge at home. There's bigger issues than like Lookman missing the penalty.
Yes,
You were 3-1 down at that point. Like and at the end of the day they
yo,
were never gonna at that point even if Lookman scored they were not overcoming that deficit. Like the game was done.
yeah, that was just maybe like getting their head above water a little bit and giving them some room to breathe and some distant hope. But I guess that killed it off for them. But at the end of the day, I thought the same thing was him. I'm like, man, you were tactically outclassed over two legs, both home and away. This isn't the league stage of the Champions League where, you either only go away or you play at home. No, no, no. You had two chances within the spaces of a week, and you managed to get slapped in both games. Like you lost 5-2 on aggregate. That's
Yeah,
embarrassing.
it felt like
Um,
in a funny way because the two games happened in the space of a week. It felt like more like an NBA play like in playoff game because like you have like you face the same team like 7 times. In this case, you face them twice, but it's like in the span of a week. So it's
yeah.
like they definitely just outclassed them in back-to-back games just right away.
You know what? I'm actually a fan of this. I like when there's a quick turnaround. I don't like when there's like a playoff game, a quarterfinal, round of 16, or whatever it is, and then within like the next month, the second leg is played. High stake games for me need to be played back to back because it gives you that momentum. It keeps it fresh in the player's mind. You keep focused on one thing, and there's a different atmosphere around it. I'm not a big fan of distancing the games, but another game that was actually very interesting, and the game I actually watched this day, it was Bayern and Celtic. What a game! Your respect to Celtic because the one thing I know is I said Bayern was gonna slap them, which did not happen. Bayern scraped through. They needed a 94th minute goal by Alfonso Davies, which was just a mistake, and I can't even call it a mistake by the Celtic defender Carter Vickers. He was just clearing the ball, and Davies, it was good on him to be at the back post and anticipating the clearance so he can block it and end up scoring it. But man, a lot of questions need to be asked about Bayern. They are extremely inconsistent. You don't know, you never know which version you're gonna get. Um, but yeah, again, in the next round we'll see who do you say they play? They play either Leverkusen or Atletico Madrid.
Bayern,
Um,
yes, Leverkusen, Atletico Madrid. And honestly, with the way Bayern is playing, uh, with Leverkusen because Leverkusen has also been inconsistent this year. It could make an even game, but like you saw, like last, I think it was last weekend, Leverkusen and Bayern played for
yep,
0-0. So but I think
yep.
Atletico Madrid can definitely have a big shot against Bayern because I think from the way I keep watching them every now and then, I feel like companies just skating by with just like some results because this is not the same Bayern, which especially with Kane, I expected them to like steamroll some teams because we know how clinical Kane is.
Yeah.
They're just scraping by some games, especially this early in like the Champions League. Like we both expected like 4-5s, like in both in just dispatching of Celtic, But like, and like they made
Hmm.
a mess of it. Like I was personally ready for extra time, and you never know what happens at extra time, and then they just lucked out with just scraped by.
Honestly, yeah, Celtic were playing on the break that game, and their tactics seemed to have worked. They were shutting out Bayern very nicely. They weren't just sitting back; like they were actually, waiting for the moment to counterattack, and again, like it worked. And it just seems like Bayern do struggle like at creating chances against those low blocks, and it makes you wonder if they get Atletico, what on earth are they gonna do? And this is a pretty much, Atletico have been in form for quite a while now, and big games in the Champions League, in my opinion, belong to Atletico and belong to Spanish teams. Like this is where they excel. So I would love to see an Atletico and a Bayern quarter or round of 16 match over a Bayer Leverkusen and a Bayern Munich game, just because I feel like that one's gonna be too cagey. Whereas with Atletico Madrid, they gave you that sense of chaos, and I'm here for the chaos. You need to, Diego Simeone in these playoff games is this is bread and butter. He's like a mini Mourinho for me.
Yeah, Atletico. Yeah,
Um,
like I think both teams can have like a good shot. And just before like Club Rouge now will face like Lille or Aston
yeah.
Villa. So like one of those three teams are going to be making it to the quarterfinals.
So yeah, we're gonna have a quote unquote weaker team like like Club Brugge or Lille or Aston Villa in the quarterfinals. It would be interesting to see Aston Villa there. You can't write off Club Brugge, and I think they do have more European experience in recent years than Aston Villa. So if they do end up playing Aston Villa or Lille, I think Club Brugge will be the one that we see in the quarterfinals, which I'm not against honestly. Like if you're winning games, you deserve to be where you are at the end of the day. Moving on to the next day, I just want to touch on PSG because when we were talking about PSG, you know, by the way, first of all, a 10-0 aggregate score. Do you know how insane that is? This team is finally looking like, a team. It looks like the team Chelsea are trying to make. By the way, it's a bunch of youngsters mixed with some experience from Donnarumma, from Hakimi, from Marquinhos, and then Kimpembe coming off the bench, and Fabian Ruiz. Apart from that, you have Joao Neves, Vitinha, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, Barcola, like a bunch of middle like young, either people at the beginning of their careers or people still early in their careers, players still early in their careers, and they're absolutely cooking. They're all clicking. There's no big egos in the team. They all work hard. Enrique, I'm pretty sure, as a manager, he was relieved to see Mbappe leave, as talented as Mbappe was. Sometimes you need those big egos out to make the machine, like the team, function like a machine, and that's exactly what's happening right now. And I said this was going to be a statement, two-leg tie for PSG, and it's exactly what it was, a 10-0 aggregate. They showed us they don't belong here. They belong automatically in the round of 16, and I'm excited to see them play either Barca or Liverpool because I can see PSG going all the way to the finals this year.
Yo, they absolutely mauled Brest. And the thing is, sometimes, like, honestly, like, sometimes in the group, it doesn't matter if, like, you struggle, as long as you just make it to the knockouts. Like, and that's what some of the big teams are. Like, now it's going to be hard to get, like, PSG out in, like, 2 games or, like, Madrid in 2 games. Like, I feel like sometimes,
Hmm.
like, performing in the group is irrelevant because the real tournament starts in the knockouts.
Exactly,
And,
100%.
like,
It's just crazy
they
to
had
me.
7 different goal
Yeah, go ahead.
scorers that game. Like it's wild. Like PSG is just clicking right now, especially
Oh,
in like Champions League. They're just dispatching teams.
I didn't even notice that they had 10 or seven different goal scorers. That's actually insane. Wow. And that's yeah. They had. I mean, I think one or two of the players that came off the bench scored. Like Gonzalo Ramos came off the bench and scored, and Desiree Doué came off the bench and scored. Lee Kang In came on and was absolutely cooking. Kimpembe came on. He's been out for the long with an injury for a while. He came back last game, I think, or the game before, and they're just absolutely cooking. And I'm telling you, I genuinely think this team we can see them all the way in the finals, considering the you know I don't see them
They
struggling too
do
hard against either Barca or
with Liverpool.
Liverpool.
The thing is, it's gonna be interesting because I wonder like depending on like. Barca, the thing is with Barca, I can see them like doing good against Barca just because Barca's high line could get exposed.
Oh yeah,
With Liverpool, however, I think like Liverpool might have enough to get through PSG. But like with Barca, it could be definitely an interesting game with Barca just because of Barca's high line and like the history of like
yeah, I
PSG
agree.
Barca. It will be like a. I'm more intrigued with PSG Barca just because of their history. I feel like with PSG finally like somehow becoming better without Mbappe now, I feel like it will be a good like challenge because like I think this is a better version of PSG than it was with like Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. I feel like sometimes maybe an
Oh
over
yeah.
reliance on just superstars. Because before we always said, "Yo, PSG has these superstars. Midfield is non-existent. The defender is just not up to
Hmm.
par." But it feels like they have just a well balanced team, and Enrique just has them like as a well oiled machine right now.
Yeah, yeah. Like the whole problem before it was not balanced enough. For the longest time, they had Verratti as the only probably disciplined midfielder, but now they actually have three. You have people. You have a deep line playmaker. You have a sitting midfielder, and you have a box to box. Like these are the basics of playing a 4-3-3, and they finally got it right. They got a manager with a brain at the end of the day, and I think the board probably dropped their ego and maybe just listen to the manager a little bit more, give him more control to build a team, and this is what you get. At the end of the day, football, I think managers like to complicate it a little bit too much these days. Nothing makes me happier than seeing a team with regular 4-3-3 with overlapping fullbacks and wingers tucking in, just thriving, and that's PSG at the moment. And the thing with Liverpool, you're right, Wasim. I don't think PSG actually have what it takes to for me to say they'll beat them for sure. Just because Liverpool is a team that once they control the game, you have to be patient against them, and I have no idea how defensively solid PSG are. So yeah, the better matchup for me would be Barca. So just for Ziad, I hope PSG and Barca um, get drawn against each other, and I want to see Dembele absolutely cook Barca, cook. I want to see him go to the kitchen. I'll call him Chef
Let him
Dembouz.
eat.
That's what I call him. All of them, let him cook and eat his own food. My king. Okay, moving on to Manchester City, the sussest team in the league. Manchester City is their new name, by the way. Absolutely cooked by Madrid, and of course, no one wants to play against Madrid in the Champions League because we know it's a competition. The Bernabeu is just not a place you can go and win, regardless of how they're performing in the time, regardless of form. Chouameni said it, and after the first leg, and Man City fans were laughing at him because he said Madrid's season starts in February. He wasn't joking when he said Madrid's season starts in February. This is every year. Madrid have the slowest start to the season, then pick up form and just steamroll everyone. Look at them. They were so behind in the Liga. Now they're top in the league. Now they absolutely wiped the floor with Man City, embarrassed them. Like the game on Wednesday was just about damage limitation for Man City from the moment it started. Um, and yeah, I can't really say it's a surprise. And you know what? Mbappe made me eat my words, but I'm happy that he got a hat trick because a lot of us were disrespecting him, me included, and he just reminded us who the hell Mbappe is. This man is moving like R9 in his prime, by the way. Baggy long sleeve, Madrid white kit number 9 on the back, light skin, bald. This is R9 who came back from the dead. By the
I
way, that's
swear,
all I'm
like
gonna
this
say.
game in a way didn't
Clinical.
let us learn anything new. I think like when we made our prediction, I think like we said City might need at least like 2 goals in the home leg to just even survive the Bernabeu. And I think like the second like we all just accepted that City's not going to survive that game. Uh, my
Yeah,
thing
no way.
was like typical Madrid Champions League heritage. City continues with the
Yep.
same problems they had this whole year. Like I don't know what Diaz was doing for the first goal. Like Mbappe just absolutely ate him alive. Um,
And even
oh,
Ederson was seen.
even
Look at
Edison.
Ederson's positioning.
Edison's position has been woeful this entire like year. The amount of bad positioning he's been doing it from like the it was PSV game that they had earlier this year in Champions League, and there's at least like three other suspect moments from Ederson that he's just been doing. The second goal, Guardiola just slid all the way back to Manchester. I don't know what he was doing.
He
And
broke
I
his
like that
ankle.
kind of like shithousery by Mbappe. Him looking back at Guardiola, making that celebration, yo, he
You
slid.
saw
Yeah,
that?
that's what we need.
Elite.
And like for me,
Elite.
like Mbappe got like listen, I rated Mbappe since like Monaco days, but like for me, he like was rightfully criticized this year because I feel like sometimes he would like listen at the end of the day he was like playing like dog shit for Real Madrid at the beginning of the season. He needed some time, but
Hmm.
like at the end of the day, it was like very bad at that time, and like he's getting better, but I think also like I think they are struggling in in the league Madrid, but it doesn't look like they're struggling in Champions League anymore. And Man City, Balmouche got his first taste at what Holland has been getting this entire year. I defended Holland like this
Hmm.
entire season, saying, "Yo, He's not being fed. Like there has been some games where Haaland was like missing some big game chances, especially when you need him to score, and they fumbled some games. But how many times did Marmoush run in behind? And these Manchester City players are just ignoring the runs. They're refusing. They just keep playing
Hilarious.
side to side and going nowhere. And the thing is, City before would create chances, even if they hold on to the ball. There's just zero creativity right now in their
Yes.
team, and
Yeah, there's no
you group that
penetration.
with their horrific defending this year, and that was the recipe for what the game was. Like the players were just all over the place defensively. They just kicking the ball out for clearances, getting it out for either a throw in or a corner. They were just mauled right away from the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like I really think I understand Holland's injured. And what you said, Wasim, honestly, yes. As much as I was upset for Marmoush that this is his first experience at the Bernabeu and this is the kind of team you get to play with, like a Man City, a dead team that's not feeding you. At the same time, you're right. This proved the point. Like I don't know how people have been, and when I say people, by the way, Bender, I am looking at you. I want to judge Holland. These players rely on running in behind, and you feed them when they're running behind because these are absolute killers. You feed them. They make a run, you feed them. But Man City's players have just been programmed, you know what, to keep the ball, to retain the ball, to make 5 or 10 yard passes, to take less risks, and this is what it leads to: sideways passing. You're playing the ball like Madrid's players are all behind the ball, so there's no threat to them. You give them time to regroup. Like you're not causing any sort of chaos, and this is deserved at the end of the day. But I'm just honestly disappointed in Pep that KDB didn't come on. He could have played him in a false nine. He could have played Bernardo Silva in a false nine. He's done that before. And play Marmoush off the left, man. He is not a number nine. Like for you to play him as a number nine in the Bernabeu against two physical center backs was hilarious. Marmoush is not Holland. Holland can cope, and Holland will always cope. Number nines are built differently. They know how to play the position. They understand. They understand the physical contact. But this is you have a player Marmoush who is an inside forward. You throw him as a number nine. It's completely comedic to me. So I don't. I again like the loss. I don't think Pep is free of any blame. But again, the
This team
season is like
personally for
an
City
absolute
is like an end of an era for this specific
yes.
11 slash like team of like 16 kind of like they're not gonna be the same team. Like we just saw a start of like spending 200 million in January. I think they're spending at least 300
Yeah.
million in like the summer, to be honest. So that's typical City, but that's how they run it. Because I think the whole team, like he squeezed out everything out of that team, but I genuinely think it's just the team is on its knees, which is like
Yeah, yeah,
which
no.
is like maybe partially Pep's fault, but also like that he was there and got what he needed. Was he squeezed every little ounce of it? Like there's just no legs left in De Bruyne. They got Gundogan back, which there was a reason Barca didn't want to even keep him. Like
Mm-hmm.
outside of this, like Foden, Holland, the new signings, Guardiola maybe on the left. I think all the other positions are up for grabs for new signings. Like they're probably gonna look for a new keeper. They might look for a new center back partnership. Once Woodry's back, they might like
Right
strengthening in
back.
midfield, right back. Maybe listen for me. City has been fumbling with so many like wingers. They might even look for a right winger. I don't know. So it will be interesting. But I think yeah, this era of City is like pretty much done. And in the league, this season has been a write off for them. And we will see where they are next year. But hopefully, for now, they can perform this weekend against Liverpool, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. No, you're right, Wasim. I was actually thinking about this today, and I counted, I think, 4 or 5 players that they have to move on. I think I said Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, Ederson, Kyle Walker, like even Grealish, Kovacic. Those are players that need to leave and need to bring in new blood and like effective players. You can't just keep carrying
Like
players, man.
They got Madrid, for
It's
example, got Modric in his prime. He was surrounded by superstars, and like as the years go by, he look at all the young players that they're surrounded like around Modric. Like De Bruyne just has no legs, and honestly, like the players around De Bruyne are just not good. And at the end of the day, now De Bruyne is just injury prone, too old, without legs. You have to move on from De Bruyne too. Like even though he's wanted like in this era of the Premier League, best midfielder in the league by far in this era. But
yeah.
it's just it's
Hmm.
time to go.
It's time to go, Robbie. I agree, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I still think these are like the 5 or 6 players that should let go. I would still renew De Bruyne for a year just because of his experience and like any young player that comes into Man City can definitely just learn off him just from honestly just through training sessions. Like Phil Foden, if you remember his first 2 or 3 years where he was at Man City, he was dying to go out on loan. Pep never let him leave because he had players like David Silva, he had De Bruyne in his prime, he had Gundogan in his prime. Like you can learn off these players. So I'm all for like City renewing 1 year for De Bruyne, give him a lesser like much lesser role, but having him as a mentor to a lot of young players is gonna help. But the rest of the players are deadwood. Grealish, what are you gonna learn from him? To be a robot? Kovacic, sadly, like he didn't make it at City. I wish he stayed at Chelsea, and the rest of the players were named. Um, yeah, I just hope we see a better Man City next year because, as much as they killed the league for 4 years, this is not the Premier League I want, or like it's not this is not the City I want in Europe. Like this is just embarrassing. This is the team that represented England for a
Listen, a
while.
lot of teams, and even in the Premier League, you have dropped off because I remember last week we spoke about it, and I think it was the podcast that was just me and you, and we talked about, what, like, is it like the mid-table teams like overperforming, or maybe the
Mm,
top teams dropped off? And now that I'm thinking about it, outside of maybe personally Arsenal, if you put every like let's say the top six teams, put their current team against the
mm-hmm.
team that they had like 6 years ago. 6 years ago, that team
Yeah.
would sweep like the current team for like United, City, even Liverpool, in my opinion. Spurs were a better team 6 years ago. Chelsea was a better team. The only one I would say, because we were on our knees, is Arsenal was like a better team than it was like 6 years ago. But outside of that, like the top
Yeah,
teams
that's
are just
actually
like, just in like a drop off phase.
that's actually a fair point, and like yeah, I agree. It's the bigger teams that have declined, and it's clear because like even if you go Wasim even further than 6 years, like if you look at like I don't know 10, 15 years ago, it's hilarious. Like the level of strikers in the league. Arsenal had who? Like who was Arsenal striker? Look at the era you guys had Van Persie. Chelsea had Drogba. Liverpool had Torres or Suarez.
Yo,
United had like
your
Rooney,
fantasy
Tevez,
choices were
and then the
spoiled. Just
teams.
look at fantasy with those stuff, the options.
Ex- exactly, exactly. But now, I mean, sorry, like, and then if you look at the lesser teams during the era, who were their strikers? They were actually like dead strikers, like Kevin Davies, Kevin Phillips. Like, big teams had big players, small teams had small players. Like big because it's not because the smaller players were actually that much worse. It's just that the top players were actually elite footballers, like elite level. Whereas now it's so very much system oriented, and you have to have a specific profile. Your body has to be able to move in specific ways for you to fit in a specific manager system. This is a decline of football. Like you're seeing less quality. You're seeing more of them being athletes. Unfortunately, they're killing our game, man. I'm
We
disgusted.
have to count on the young blood to bring the love back to the game. One year, I trust in you.
Nwanieri, honestly, Loki Wasim though, you're right. Like it's gonna be those players. I see it coming back through like Palmer, Saka, Nwanieri,
Until the shackles gets puts
Wirtz.
on them.
Yep, just come exactly. Just once those football develops again, we're gonna have more shackles on these players. Although to be honest with you, the only reason I do genuinely think football's recovering a little bit is if you see the teams that are actually doing well around the world right now, it's those chaos teams. Like for example, who's like Madrid, for example, it's not a team of control and possession. It's a team of chaos. If you look at Bournemouth in the Premier League, if you look at like Brentford, Fulham, it's not teams of control. It's teams that just want to play football. It's all about running and sending a ball in behind. It's none of this like inverting and all that stuff, and that makes me happy. The teams inverting and playing complicated football, I'm looking at Chelsea and City, for example, are struggling, and I'm happy about this because that shit gotta get kicked out of my sport. By the way, I'm not here for it. But before I forget, Wednesday saw Liverpool and Aston Villa. Saw Liverpool drop some massive, massive points. You could argue that they saved themselves some points because they were the ones who equalized. But at the end of the day, they should have won that game. Nunes missed a very big chance
Man,
right after Arnold's
that
goal.
game, I don't know how to feel about it because, man, I'm telling you sometimes, like, the thing is, this game reminds me of, like, Arsenal back in the day where they make just dumb mistakes in the back, try to play out from the back, lose the ball, concede. And both teams suffered from that same situation, from, like, Liverpool's first goal, even Aston Villa's, like, second goal, I believe. People are trying to play out from the back, make mistakes, concede goals. The thing is, Arsenal revolutionized me because now we're like hard to beat, uh, compact.
Yeah,
We still make the occasional mistake in the back, but I'm like, sometimes even Villa against other games, and I think it was also like they make the silliest mistake sometimes against the big teams. Just boot it out, clear it. Like some goals are just for me so
it does,
avoidable.
it's not aesthetic, Wasim. Okay, you
And
gotta play from
then
the back.
like the second goal, Rashford. Can we track Arnold? What? Why
Yo,
did we just? Why did we pause? Did the controller get stuck? Track your man.
I am looking at the control. His control
And the
disconnected,
funny
by the
thing is,
way.
I think Rashford almost got subbed out immediately after that goal. Like he got subbed out within
No way.
like he
Did he
got subbed
actually?
out for me from what I when I was watching the game, like subbed out maybe a few minutes after that, if I'm not mistaken. Like he and I think Emery probably saw it too. I'm like, and that's when I was watching the game. I was
You're
like,
right.
wait, Arnold is in acres of space, and of course there has to be some like jammy luck deflection goes in, but it was like typical.
Uh,
Like the thing is, Liverpool are struggling every now and then, but honestly, if we said, yo, Arsenal had like still Saka, Havertz, maybe. But we have our own
yeah.
laboring issues up front that every game is going to be tough. So I think like Liverpool can afford these kind of. And listen, Villa away is not the worst place to draw because like we struggled there, and all the other big teams like struggled. I think the toughest spot for Liverpool is coming up because I think they play City, and in a few weeks I think they play
Mm-hmm.
Newcastle. If they get through that unscathed, they will be fine. But I think also Arsenal are going to run into some tough games. But I think Liverpool are in the clear. We have an injury crisis of our own. They should be fine. Salah is still scoring no matter what these days. They might. I think
Legit.
they might need to look like. I'm still surprised they rejected 70 million for Nunez because I don't know why. You take that money and run.
Huh. The thing is, before we talk on like the bit of a title race, my issue is with that second goal. Before Rashford even lost Arnold, if you have no idea how many times I replayed that goal. So I didn't watch it live. I was watching City Madrid. If you see how many times I replayed that goal, I was baffled by Lucas Digne, by the way. Salah lost control of the ball. He took a really horrific touch. He rolled it with his cleats. He lost control of the ball. Digne was in control of the situation. But I think people see Salah and they freak out for some reason. He lunged into a stupid ass tackle, which ended up bouncing off of him and back off Salah. And ended up at Salah's foot. He cuts it back to Arnold. Now, this is where Rashford's work rate needs to be questioned because Digne got pulled out of position, so Tielemans had to cover for Digne. Initially, he was covering Arnold because Arnold inverted. But since he tucked in and he was almost in the left back position, Rashford saw that happen in front of his very own eyes in slow motion and decided to be like, you know what? Let me stroll back. Let me prove Ruben Amorim right and how he says I have no work rate. Because to me, if you're treating like shit, it also translates into you having no work rate. And we honestly saw that. Like right now, you're on a loan spell. Even if he wasn't your man, and you saw an open man going, especially someone with the like attacking threat of Arnold, you're on a loan spell. You're there to prove everyone wrong and your previous manager wrong. You're chasing that man down and closing it down. You never know. He could have fouled him. Could have pushed him off balance. Could have done anything just to help your case. But you're not helping
And
your
we just
case here,
said
Rashford.
like we just talked about systems. In systems, every player needs to pull their weight. If one person is not doing one thing, the whole
Exactly.
thing gets like screwed.
100%. And this situation exactly where it happened. Dino was pulled out of position, and so was Tielemans. And Rashford decided to, you know what? I don't need to bust the gut. I'm okay. If he scores, he scores. If he doesn't score, he doesn't score. I'm still getting my wages. I guess that's a selfish nature that is within Rashford that maybe we kind of doubted Amorim about. But if this is the Rashford that he had in training, then you know what? I cannot blame Ruben Amorim. But yeah, well, I guess we'll see what happens moving forward with Rashford. But that was disgusting. I would be disgusted as a Villa fan, especially if I see a lone player like if this club is giving you a chance. This Emery's giving you a chance to to redeem yourself, and you're out here. This is the effort you're giving me, like as a fan, as a manager. God damn, I'd be triggered, man. But again, like I said, two big points dropped for Liverpool, and it makes the title race that much more exciting. And Wasim, you know what? I know Arsenal have their in no way and in no like shape or form do I expect Arsenal to mount the title challenge. But the only reason I still do think you guys are there is you do have a game in hand now because Liverpool have played 26 games with that match against Aston Villa. But at the same time, just like you guys are strikerless, um, I think Liverpool we can say they're strikerless. Diaz is absolute trash, and Nunes is a negative. He's not even trash. He's worse than trash. So this is the only thing that you guys could like is kind of a bright spark for you guys. Like something that gives you hope. But again, in no way, shape, or form am I saying Arsenal are a title race. But that's just my take on it. The only difference I think between Liverpool and Arsenal is genuinely Salah, like his clinical nature. The closest player you guys had to him, I would say, is Saka, but of course Saka sidelined. And as long as he remains out, I
If
can't
we
give Arsenal
had
a
Saka
chance in the
still,
title
I would
race.
have still had faith, just because like his numbers weren't as good as Salah.
Mm.
But like even now, like Saka outside of Salah, he's still up there in like the assist category. Like he was like
Saka's
he was
efficient.
like pretty much for the longest time like up there with Salah when it comes to assists, and like and goal wise he was like second under Havertz, but the thing is for us every game is tough. Like I don't even like it's gonna be a struggle against West Ham to find the net. For me, we're not gonna concede many goals, but my God, is it gonna be tough to score these goals. And like for me, I think they're gonna probably put Jota up front, most likely when he regains some fitness. I think it's funny how we just
Hmm.
talked a bit ago about strikers and like look at the strikers at these clubs these days or what they had to do. It's just a
Exactly.
struggle. Like outside of the striker position, I feel like Liverpool is set for a few years and comfortably. Like I know they're gonna have to find an Arnold replacement, but like outside of the striker position that they need to figure out, they're pretty much set for the next couple of years. Of course, depending on what's gonna happen with
I don't
Salah.
know, Wazim
I was
Salah.
gonna correct myself. Depending on what's the Salah situation.
Yeah, man. I don't know, whatever. So I actually came across something on TikTok, and it was one of the guys that like have insider information on clubs. Forget his name. Maybe Ben Jacobs or something. Anyways, Carragher was asking about the contract situation, and he said he's like Virgil van Dijk is about you can almost say he's 100% gonna stay. Arnold's 50-50, and with Salah he said it seems like he's leaving. So that's humongous. I don't know what Liverpool do about that, but I guess this is something we can talk about closer to the end of the season and closer to when we know what actually happened with Salah.
If I'm Salah,
Unfortunately,
this is
we're not that big
disrespect.
yet, so we don't have insider
This is
information.
disrespect at this point for Salah. If he's still not tied to a contract, I would
Yeah.
leave that alone. To be honest,
Listen, man. In the past 4 games, Salah has been involved in every single goal Liverpool have scored, and that's just me ignoring all the 26 games I've been. Sorry, the other 22 games have been played this season by Liverpool. So it's not like even if you just want to say it's recent bias, sure, look at recent bias and Salah just dominates everything. Man, it's enough. Like the numbers he's putting, you know, with Ziad, we always have this discussion of like, oh, Salah, how good is he? How compared to other Premier League players, aesthetics, not the aesthetics, Henri, Rooney, blah blah blah. And I always genuinely sided with Rooney being better, and I sided with Henri being better. But to a certain point, me myself, I personally have to wake up and start, giving Salah an actual chance and probably even put him above these players because aesthetics is one thing, but smashing every single record on the planet in the Premier League is something else that needs to be respected because he's doing this at the age of what, 33, 34 as a right winger, by the way. So again, that's another conversation to have, but something that I've been thinking about recently, and man, I think Salah needs to still be respected more. Um, but with Premier League coming up this weekend, Everton United, please the Toffees, up the Toffees, up the
I
fucking
will be there.
Toffees. We're, I will be there, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. My alarm's going off at 7 a.m. I am having breakfast in a blue plate because I am Everton that day. My blood bleeds blue
I'm already
for
thinking
the
of putting my two
Toffees.
fantasy Everton defenders on the field and maybe getting Moyes as assistant manager.
Wasim, just Captain Brentwaite,
Uh,
please.
I don't even know who the captain. I'm like, is
He's
Salah
good.
gonna do the Mbappe and absolutely cook City and just keep it at him?
Yeah, it's a tough week, eh?
But honestly, I
It's
am
actually a
here for
tough week.
Everton. I am cheering.
I'm here
Any
for
else for
everything too.
United is still hilarious to me. I will take it.
Oh, it will never get old. I think we discussed that last time. We said, when do we stop discussing United? It doesn't get old because
Uh,
this is United.
any
This is funny. This
Anytime
is
I will think
comedic.
it's gonna get old, I will just watch the highlights of the Arsenal game where they lost the invincible title for the 50th game against you. I'll just watch that highlight and I'll remember.
Exactly. This is the karma you needed all along, Wasim. Who would have known you would have had to wait all these decades? But you know what? We're here
Finally,
now. What's your prediction, Wasim?
2-0 Everton, I believe.
Eesh. You know her not scoring. You know what?
Honestly,
That's such a
Diallo's
fair one.
injured. Hoyland is busy wrestling.
Yep.
Zirkzee, I don't know what he does. And Garnacho just is
Yep.
bird shooting, bird hunting in the air.
Garnacho's Garnacho.
Like, the only worrisome might be Bruno
Um,
Fernandes, but, like, listen, 2-0 Everton, I believe. I just don't know if Ndai is back, because I think that's a big miss, because he's actually been cooking him and Beto. But I still think Everton
yeah.
will have enough.
I will say 1-0 Everton.
The
Up the Toffees. Up the Toffees once again. David Moyes came in and did a job, eh? Okay, Wasim. The mighty Arsenal versus the Hammers. North London forever. What are we saying here? How are you feeling first of all for this
the
game?
jammiest 1-0. I just don't know.
Damn, at home.
I just don't know where these goals are gonna come from. I just don't have faith. I just don't know.
Wasim, let me remind
I
you.
still think he's probably gonna play Sterling on the left because I don't think it's smart to play Moreno as like a striker from the beginning. But my God, Sterling is horrendous. We're gonna play with 10 men till the 60th minute.
Listen. Wasim, you're playing at the carpet. There's honestly, Wasim, the carpet at that the 10 a.m. Eastern time kickoff. In my opinion, that there's an atmosphere there. Honestly, the Emirates has aura. I have to say that. I have to give that to Emirates.
Listen, I remember the 80 Listen, still remember the 80 minutes of Arsenal versus Leicester. I just cannot say anything more than a 1-0.
Okay, we'll go with 1-0 for the mighty Arsenal. Arsenal are struggling for goals, but I will go 3-0 Arsenal.
Yo, man has more faith
I
in my
believe,
team than his
I
team. What's
believe.
going on?
And Wasim, I do think continues with. My team don't deserve faith. My team deserves to be hung and spat on. By the way, that's what my team deserves. My team need to be paying fans to go to the stadium. Oh, there was a protest there. I don't know how it went. Hilarious. We have a hilarious bunch.
Which one?
Anyways, there was a protest for Chelsea. Like the
Oh,
fans on
I saw part of that. I don't know. So, I got some confused information because I was watching other Chelsea fans. I wasn't sure, but yeah, I see the protest, which is weird. Thing is, they spend a lot, but like their spending is funny. The dealings behind closed doors funny with like the tickets. Also, it's very questionable stuff.
Mm-hmm. And to me, it's just like as fans, I see both sides. I see why you do a protest, but why do you do a protest now when this board took over like 3.5 years ago or almost 4 years ago now?
It's weird because
This
I
is our
think
best
also
spell.
United
This
is
is our
going to do a protest around the Arsenal game because it's going to be at Old Trafford.
yeah, same with Spurs
I'm not
and Spurs soon as well.
I'm not sure if it's going to end up happening or not, but yeah, I heard also like rumors from other clubs doing protests.
Yeah, man, protests are hilarious because I don't think they actually ever have, like, you're never gonna kick owners out of the club. They are owners.
Listen,
They own the club.
I
What
always
do you
found
want?
it funny because for me, I understand the fans chanting, "Hey, get out of my club." I understand the fans' perspective. It's our club. We're the fans. But at the end of the day, whoever owns it is the owner. So a
They
very
literally own it.
controversial take, but like, not that I'm siding with the big boys owners, but I'm like, at the end of the day, it's their clubs.
Listen, it's the truth. Like, there's a reason managers come out after games and owners, if they ever speak in pressers, they will always be like, "You need the fans. They're important to us." But yeah, because they are your paying customers. They are the reason, you're profiting or making money. You're bringing any sort of revenue into the club. They're paying your disgusting ass expensive tickets, like absolute idiots, by the way. But that's how life goes. This is the matrix you speak about. Um, okay. Do you want to predict Ipswich Spurs?
I'm down because I
Or
genuinely
is that
think
a dead?
Ipswich might win.
Okay. Okay, and they are at home.
Ipswich did beat them in the other
Yep.
leg, I believe.
They did. That was the first win of the season in October or November. I'm not gonna forget that. Yeah. Okay, Wasim. What's your prediction?
I want to say for that game, low key though, 1-1. I'll be safe.
There you go. Wasim. Um, no, no, no. You completely cut out. I just asked you what do you think your prediction is, and then you said we said like yeah, Ipswich got their. I said Ipswich got their first win against Spurs, and then he disappeared. Okay, okay. What's your
Oh, I
prediction,
can hear
Wasim,
you now.
for Ipswich Spurs?
Did you hear me when I said 1-1 or?
1-1. You know what? That's very fair. I will go for a 2-1 Ipswich.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
Just to
I
be
agree.
safe, we want to win some predictions. 1-1.
You know what? I agree with you. Can we skip over the Chelsea game?
Because Vicario coming back and Madison coming back, they did look a bit better against United, Spurs,
This is
but
prime
there's still
time
just too
Aston
much
Villa versus
deficiencies.
Chelsea. The
But like
Villains
the some players
versus
coming
the
back did at
Mighty
least
Blues.
help performance wise.
Maresca's Mighty Blues in action away. To some listen, listen. Aston Villa against Liverpool for me, even against Ipswich. To be honest, I know they dropped
Oh,
points,
you're not ready for the
but
prediction.
you know with the new signings, they just look like they're absolutely enjoying themselves. A bunch of free rolls for Asensio, Morgan Rogers, you know Tillman's in midfield, Watkins in form, Rashford. Last time I said, should I go with my head or should I go with my heart? Like a little donkey. But I am gonna say, Maresca, prove me wrong. I beg you. I will say 4-1 for Aston Villa. I said what I said because let's be honest here. You know, sometimes we complicate this game of football that's played on green turf with two nets and 22 players on the pitch and a bald manager usually on the sideline against a manager with a full head of hair. At the end of the day, Chelsea FC do not have a goal scorer. Cole Palmer, yeah, I've been defending you, you're creating chances, blah, blah, all that shit's cool. But mouth breather, it's time to step up, do something, be my Salah. Get the ball and, you know, choke some players on the field and tell them, let's go, wake up. I'm gonna have my club captain Reece James chilling. You know, oh my God, man, we're protecting him. We're 25 games into the season. We're we're literally about to finish where we finished last season. Maresca, your job is on the line. Stop protecting him. Protect yourself. Okay. Fake Saka, Tyreek George. I'm pretty sure he's gonna start on Saturday. Do something, and I think this is the game where he can actually do something. But I still don't think we're gonna win. Obviously, 4-1 Aston Villa. I'm gonna stop talking. Wasim, what are your thoughts? A clean sheet. Oh, my club's embarrassing. My club's embarrassing. I don't either.
I'm thinking 2-0 Aston Villa.
Yeah, honestly, too, like this is not the time to be believing in
The
Nkunku
thing
just
is,
because he's playing out of position. He's
I
playing as a
don't
number
see
nine.
where the goal is gonna
This
come
is
from.
essentially playing Marmoush as
Outside
a
of
number nine. They're
like
they're
Palmer
very similar to
Magic,
other
I just
players.
don't see
Playing
it.
him
Like
as a lone
Nkunku,
striker is just comedic to me.
I just
Um,
I believed in Nkunku before he
they
came to
beat him.
Chelsea, but my stocks are like as low as the Nketiah
He
stocks
will.
for
He will.
Nkunku.
No, he will. No, no, no. He will. Yo, yes, you give those players. The thing with man-to-man pressing is that
I just hope Mariska
everyone
doesn't
latches
play
onto
the
an
man to
attacker,
man
and then
because
all the other
because
team got to do,
like
the
Ollie
opposition, is
Watkins is gonna
find
eat as much as him and
space,
Rogers.
green grass,
Like
and
Ollie
kick the
Watkins
ball
at least
into it.
will miss a lot.
Now,
Him and
think
Ollie
like human
Watkins,
beings. Do I
Rogers and
trust
Ollie Watkins, they will
Kukureya's pace
perform
and
in
Colwell's
I feel
pace
against
and
that
Tosin's
system.
pace and Reece James or Gusto's pace versus Rashford and Morgan Rogers and Watkins? Those are runners versus non-runners. Like we're gonna get cooked the way the Aston Villa play. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, these managers have way too much ego to change the way they're playing. I don't see Maresca going and adapting. Now, personally, I would love to play. I'm not even gonna say a low block. Just play a little bit deeper. Let them come onto you and hit them on the counter attack. The fans will understand. The fans are here to win games. You never saw Chelsea fans complain when Conte was managing and winning league titles. You never saw them complaining when Mourinho was here winning titles, and you never saw them even when Tuchel, who was not the most pragmatic, but he was still a bit pragmatic in terms of how slow he built up and how deep he defended. You never saw us complaining. You know why? Because we won games. This season we were happy, sure, because Maresca plays nice football, but the moment it's not working, you either gotta play the football and get results, or play defensive football and get results. There's no such thing as playing decent football but losing. That's not a thing at Chelsea.
Thing is,
Mm-hmm.
I I can't with managers who want to die on their sword because like
Yeah,
honestly, looking at this
that's what
table,
I'm saying,
Chelsea
Wasim. We could
cannot afford
potentially
to get
finish in
dragged
a
even
worse
more
position than
down.
last season.
Like
Um,
if Newcastle win their game potentially, Chelsea goes down to seventh. Fulham wins their game, and like let's say Villa beats Chelsea. Now those two teams are
mhm.
1 point behind Chelsea.
Not at all.
And then that will bring even more pressure on him because as much as like for example him and
The
Aaron can
thing
say
is,
we're
it's
like at
funny
least
because I
for
didn't see Poch getting sacked last
Maresca he
season, but
says
obviously
look
ended
we're
up
ahead
getting
of
sacked.
schedule.
And I keep
If
saying
you
the same
slide
about
down the
Maresca
table, you're
because
not
I'm
ahead of the
like,
schedule, and like
realistically,
that will
who's
be a
out there
long
for you to
summer for
hire?
you if you
But
not don't get
apparently, my
sacked or the
board,
start of
they
next
always
year has to
summon a
be
new
perfect or
manager,
you're
and
gonna
they're
be
like, "Wow,
like
man, this guy
on the
plays
chopping block
Pep
early.
football." They don't even care about the football. It just looks like some sort of, you know, variation of Pep's football. So they're like, you know what? Let's hire him. Dog. At this point, just buy Brighton because by the way, we hired some fitness coach from Brighton now. Just buy the club. Why build a model of it? We can just, well, the club is right there to buy. I'm sure you have all that money. Go buy the club and go manage it. Like leave my club alone. You absolutely ruined it. God damn. It's funny, man. This is not Chelsea. This is not Chelsea anymore. Like when Tuchel came, we like that big mentality that like you still felt like it was Chelsea, even if the players like we had whatever. I always complain about Mount, Havertz, Werner, Pulisic, and all those guys. Regardless of the shit players we had, Tuchel still had us being a respectful team. We won the Champions League and reached an FA Cup final and a League Cup final, man. Like we were always there with Tuchel. The moment these guys stepped in, they took the club to a different direction. That's the problem right there. You're right. Like they started doing the investment in young players.
Chelsea went from
Yeah,
buying
they're selling club
superstars to
though. Why
youngsters,
are
and
we at like?
that's the problem right there. Because like as much as you want to build youth, like why we just like pretty much setting up like the Brighton model? Like sure, like for Brighton, building kids, getting like cheap players, selling them for high prices,
Hmm. It's funny
yeah,
though
becoming bigger. Like
because
at the end, yeah,
firstly,
Chelsea's
in
what
what
it
way are you
became like a
protecting the
selling
value? If a
club.
player is
They
shit,
still
no one's
buy a
gonna buy
lot,
him
but
for
like why we just
more
like
than you bought
becoming
him
like
for.
holding on to players for
Um,
like seven,
and
8 years?
secondly,
Like I know like
by the
some
way, they
players are
don't look
gonna
at
stay, but
players
even
as
then, it felt
players.
like
They're
you're
just
buying
genuinely
players for like
assets.
7, 8 years to
They
protect their
invest in a
value,
lot of them,
just in case
and
you
to them,
sell them.
either the player is gonna become good enough to play at Chelsea, and develop into an elite player and win the club some trophies, or you're not good enough, but you're still a decent age. We can still get some money for you. So it's pathetic. Like these guys are running like if you look at it from a business standpoint, elite wages. We have some of the best wage structure in the league. Um, in terms of the money we're paying out, sure you spent however many billions, but it's being like amortized over the lifetime of a player's contract, which is 7 or 8 years. So at the end of the day, you're only spending like 20 million on these players realistically, if you think about it per year. But guess what? I never cared about finances in terms of when it comes to football. I am not an accountant for Chelsea FC. I'm a fan and I want to see the club win. I don't watch to cheer on. Oh my God, man, our net spend was positive. I don't give a shit about that. I never will give a shit about that. Legit. God damn, man. Let me enjoy my football. Fucking Clear Lake. Anyways, pricks. Newcastle, Nottingham Forest. Big game for Forest, to be honest, because if they lose, you know,
Your
I've watched
numbers
since the
man
beginning of the
now.
season as elite as Forest were. I still don't see them finishing in the Champions League spots. This will be a very decisive game for them. I know they beat Newcastle away last season, and Chris Wood scored a hat trick that game. Actually, what are your thoughts on that game, Wasim? Mm-hmm. Tough. Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
actually can't tell which way this is gonna go.
Fact.
I'll stay safe and say 1-1 because both teams like could play on the counter if they wanted to. Both played like solid defense. I believe Jolinton's still gonna be missed, which is gonna be big
Yeah, that
because
was
I know both
embarrassing, man.
teams are like
So you said
really
1-1.
physical. I
Okay.
just I'm just sussed about Newcastle after that
I will
performance against City.
say
That's what's making me like nervy a bit with a 1-1. Like I
I'm
would
gonna
want to
go
say
for a
like
3-1
Newcastle to
Nottingham
win,
Forest.
but I'll just stay safe and say 1-1 just because
Yeah.
I just gagged from that
I just
performance.
see more goals in the Forest team because their defenders are threats, but
Yeah.
also Elanga, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and Chris Wood are also threats. Versus Newcastle, realistically, their only threats are Isaac and Gordon, maybe Murphy, maybe on the odd chance Tonali. I just think Forest have more in
Yeesh.
them, and I do think Forest are more solid. Like Forest have nothing to lose. If they sit back and defend and get a 0-0, they're happy. And if they break, like score maybe a couple goals on their break, they're happy. So this game just plays into Forest's hand, in my opinion. And Newcastle again, they have to bounce back at home in front of their own fans after a disgusting performance against City. So maybe more pressure on them. Now the biggest game of the weekend, City versus Liverpool. For me, I see a Salah versus Marmoush. What are your thoughts, Wasim? What are we gonna say? True. Eee. 3-2 Man City. That's
I am
huge.
personally gonna go with my heart in this game. And the issue is I'm not sure if Holland is
Dangle a
playing or
bone.
not, which is gonna be
Wallah,
an
for
issue if he
real.
doesn't play.
We need to insert
But I
Steve
am gonna
Barker right now
say
at that bone.
3-2 Man City. Give it to me.
Yo, Speed.
Give me what I give me
Okay.
what I deserve.
3-2 is nutty, Wasim, eh? You have faith in
If-
City to score three
even
against
though I
Liverpool.
still don't believe we're gonna win the league, but
I
just
mean, I don't think it's wild,
dangle
but
that
damn.
bone in front of me. Woof woof.
You know, again, a big part of this does obviously depend on Holland playing
Because
because Marmoush as a number nine, as we saw, especially in this
I'm
City
go-
team, is not it. So
the thing is,
that'll be an automatic win for
I'm
Liverpool.
going with my
But
heart
in the
because
case, does your prediction come with a
my brain
Holland
is
start,
saying
Wasim?
2 the
Like with
Liverpool
the
comfortable.
3-2?
But
The first, yeah, yeah. Honestly,
yeah, because I would like Holland Malmouche. I feel like will be decent, but
honestly, I'll
like
take that.
I feel like
I'll take a
Liverpool,
title challenge. I'll go for a
Man City
2-2.
without Holland will be pretty much like a take
I'll go
two
for a
of
2-2.
Real Madrid versus Man City.
Yo, Liverpool are low key on the collapse, eh?
But we'll still,
And
you
the
know,
thing is,
as
they've
long
been
as you give
playing
me a
like this
City
all
win
season. They
somehow,
sure they played well
just
some
give it to
games,
me.
but for
Any
me,
sort of win.
I've watched a lot of Liverpool games this year, and they never struck me as a title-winning team. Like they were never winning convincingly.
I
But
will
again,
still
I
take a
think
draw.
it's
Just
like
anything
I
but
think
Liverpool.
Slot
Just
is a
throw
bit
me a
like
bone.
Ancelotti in terms of like he gives his players a lot of freedom. He doesn't overcomplicate things, which I absolutely rate in managers, man. Let right backs be right backs, or fullbacks be fullbacks in general. Midfielders be midfielders, and forwards be forwards. Let them do their jobs. Stop getting people in each other's way, because you know what Wasim, I said the same thing, but this man just does not seem to slow down. Salah needs to rest before the African Cup next December. Give him his break right now. I need a little niggling injury for him to lie in the physio bed, get some massages, get through
Salah
like a
can't
like a
keep
luxury
bailing
F1
them
car.
out. You know,
You
at
know,
some point he needs a rest.
get my man exactly. Let him wind down, man. Fly to Dubai a little bit, get some warm weather training in his legs. But yeah, we'll see. 2-2 for me. But that wraps it up. That wraps up all our predictions. That wraps up the preview. The preview. the review of Champions League, and like we said, yet again another episode.
Get him to wind
that's
down a little bit.
Ziadless. So I don't know. For me, yeah, because honestly, at this point, even if you don't want to replace, it looks like I will replace him. Me and Wasim are currently on the hunt for another podcast host. And again, like I'm putting Ziad in the market right now. I'm transfer listing him. So if you're a up and coming podcast or an established podcast and need a new host,
let us know in the comments if you want Ziad replaced.
Ziad can definitely be the one for you, especially with his starting line. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Ziad. So that's something he specializes in. And yeah, until next time, peace.